I thought perhaps you might show me what you were building.
Indeed. You'd like to know, wouldn't you?
You're traveling to another dimension. Your next stop, the Twilight Zone.
Rod Serling was an evil genius when it came to writing characters who roast each other.
You know, you're the only woman I know who looks as if underneath her clothes she wore clothes.
Today on our Twilight Zone Review Marathon, we're discussing one of the more divisive episodes, Uncle Simon.
And this we submit as a relative you've never met before.
Whether you love or hate this episode, one thing's for sure. Between the vicious insults throughout and a memorable appearance by Robbie the Robot, this is one you won't forget.
I'm a mechanical man.
Uncle Simon was episode 8 from season 5. It was written by Rod Serling and directed by Don Siegel.
Dramatis personae, Mr. Simon Polk. A gentleman who has lived out his life in a gleeful rage. And the young lady who's just beat the hasty retreat is Mr. Polk's niece, Barbara. She has lived her life as if during each ensuing hour she had a dentist appointment. There's yet a third member of the company soon to be seen. He now resides in the laboratory, and he is the kind of character to be found only in the Twilight Zone.
Up front, we're introduced to Barbara Polk, as played by Constance Ford. She's spent the last 25 years caring for her Uncle Simon, as played by Cedric Hardwicke. Initially, I just felt bad for Barbara. Uncle Simon enters the scene like a horror movie villain, with his cane in hand, a creepy expression, and an unholy craving for hot chocolate.
If it's not hot enough, I'll throw it on the floor.
And like any good movie monster, he even gets a jump scare music cue.
Garbage head.
So, you get the point pretty quickly. Uncle Simon is an insulting, cranky old man who most people would abandon at their first opportunity. But Barbara endures this abuse because she's the only heir to her uncle's fortune. So, ostensibly, this is a huge payday for her. And I think the revelation of Barbara's ulterior motives helped turn this into more than just a straightforward torture fest. That said, I admit, I did find myself conflicted over which one of these two were worse, Uncle Simon or Barbara.
When I come back from your funeral, I'm going to open a bottle of wine.
In terms of Twilight Zones written by Rod Serling, which happen to feature characters verbally assaulting each other, Uncle Simon is a standout. Other episodes that come to mind are The Masks, in which we see an Alien patriarch tear apart his greedy family members. And then there's The Silence, in which we saw R.T. Taylor rip it into his overly chatty fellow club member Jamie Tennyson. In this story, the takedowns are equally brutal, but they aren't as one-sided. Barbara gets in a few good shots at her uncle here and there.
If I'm a passionless vegetable, it's because my gardener is an ancient relic made out of dry skin and ice water.
Not bad, not bad, not bad.
But ultimately, I'd say Uncle Simon wins this war of words. He goes straight for the jugular, cutting Barbara down with cruel, mean-spirited personal jabs.
You have all the grace and femininity of a high-buttoned shoe.
Venomous insults aside, the story shifts gears when we learn Uncle Simon's been toiling away in his basement lab, working on a mysterious invention. Of course, he forbids Barbara from going anywhere near his latest mystery project. This aspect added some much-needed intrigue to a story that early on felt more like a soap opera / hostage situation. As is often the case when someone's told not to go somewhere, well, that becomes the one place they can't resist.
What is your fascination with my forbidden closet of mystery?
Sure enough, Barbara does try to sneak a peek at her uncle's lab.
What have we here?
The altercation that follows quickly escalates and even turns violent. After Uncle Simon falls down the stairs, Barbara is faced with a moral dilemma. Should she help save the man who's spent years berating and humiliating her, or let him die? You guessed it, she lets him die.
As of right now, I am going to rape! Hey world, I'm back! I'm really back!
Following Uncle Simon's death, his lawyer, Mr. Schwimmer, as played by Ian Wolfe, reads the will, and we learn that in order to inherit her uncle's estate and continue to live the cushy life, Barbara must remain in the house and look after her uncle's final invention. And with that, we get the Twilight Zone curveball we've been waiting for. Uncle Simon's final project, was a robot.
I bid you greetings. Hello, Barbara.
This robot is easily one of the highlights for me in the episode, and I mean, how could he not be? Our robot here is played by the hardest working robot in Hollywood, Robbie the Robot, of Forbidden Planet fame. And when you know it, much like modern AI, this robot quickly evolves. Its speech and behavior goes from your typical mechanical chatter to full-blown Uncle Simon 2.0.
Hot chocolate. I would love a cup of hot chocolate.
Now I admit, prior to this Twilight Zone, I had no idea that robots even drank hot chocolate, so there you go. You learn something new every day. With that, the episode wraps up with this cruel twist of fate. Despite her uncle's departure, Barbara is still forced to go on taking care of his robot counterpart.
What is the matter, you peanut-headed sample of nature's carelessness?
And she can shove the robot down the stairs all she wants, because what doesn't kill Robo Simon only makes him meaner.
What does it take to make you move, you bovine crab?
And to make matters worse, per the stipulations of the will, Mr. Schwimmer will even make daily visits just to make sure Robo Simon is kept up and running, and Barbara is tending to his every need. After all, that hot chocolate isn't going to make itself.
Barbara?
And that's pretty much where this episode leaves us. If you're sitting there wondering why Barbara doesn't flee and make her own way in life, then we're about on the same page.
Dramatis personae, a metal man, who will go by the name of Simon, whose life as well as his body has been stamped out for him, and the woman who tends to him, the Lady Barbara, who's discovered belatedly that all bad things don't come to an end, and that once a bed is made, it's quite necessary that you sleep in it. Tonight's uncomfortable little exercise in avarice and automatons from the Twilight Zone.
I think it's pretty clear why Uncle Simon isn't a favorite among Twilight Zone fans. First off, the most common criticism I've seen for this episode is who wants to watch people bicker and insult each other.
You thin-lipped, toothpick-legged conniver?
And I can relate to this criticism. If I ever find myself around people or robots squabbling, I immediately search for the nearest exit. However, for the most part, the episode was tolerable to me because at least all the insults and jabs were written by Rod Serling, meaning we got some cleverness and wit in all of these takedowns. Also, I have to note, as a big fan of sci-fi, I absolutely appreciate seeing more of Robbie the Robot. Sure, he may have a modified helmet that's likely meant to resemble a human face, but make no mistake, that's our boy Robbie the Robot, and I'm here for it.
If you need anything like a can of lubricant, get it yourself.
Robbie's presence lends a lighter tone to this otherwise bitter story. The second he enters the picture, the episode goes from being something you might see on Alfred Hitchcock Presents to an actual full-blown Twilight Zone. By the way, this isn't Robbie's only appearance in the fifth dimension. He also showed up in toy form in the Season 1 episode, One for the Angels. And we'd see him again in the Season 5 episode, The Brain Center at Whipple's. And I see him every day, right here next to me on my desk.
This is very interesting.
Overall, Uncle Simon is bleak, but to its credit, it's consistent. From the get-go, Simon and his niece are a dysfunctional nightmare. And this volatile dynamic never dies, it just gets a shiny new upgrade. And by the end, it's clear Barbara is doomed to remain in this cycle of misery. Not because of bad luck, but due to her own greed. This is a rough payoff, but as Serling's closing narration states, once a bed is made, it's quite necessary that you sleep in it. Tonight's uncomfortable little exercise in avarice and automatons. So, this is a cautionary tale about greed. Barbara traded her freedom, her dignity, and basically her soul for wealth. And sure enough, she ends up right back at square one. Only this time, there's nothing left in the tank, and she has no fight left in her. And maybe that defeated look on her face in the final moments answers the question, why doesn't she get the hell out of this situation? Well, perhaps she's simply too broken to start over. Barbara may have planned to outlive her uncle, but now this hot chocolate drinking robot with a limp will easily outlive her.
Barbara? Question.
Beyond these harsh life lessons, I think this episode also leaves us with further questions to consider. Was this relationship between the two always this horrific, or did it fester and become toxic over the years? Did Barbara really deserve such a cruel punishment? And most importantly, should I be giving more hot chocolate to my Robbie the Robot?
Help me.
Interestingly, in Martin Grahams Jr.'s Unlocking the Door to a Television Classic, it's noted there was a deleted scene in which Barbara actually watches her uncle die, raises her head, and then laughs. The scene then cuts to Barbara shedding crocodile tears and concocting her version of how her uncle died to an officer as played by John McLeod. Ironically, the officer states to her, "I can imagine how close you two were," to which she replies, "You have no idea." This sounds like a pretty awesome alternate scene that I would have loved to have seen incorporated into this episode. I think it may have given us even more insight into Barbara's darker side.
I want to be compensated, Uncle Simon, for 25 years.
One final observation, I find it telling that Uncle Simon could create a highly advanced robot capable of learning and taking his place, yet he doesn't simply create a servant robot for himself and get rid of Barbara altogether. But if he did that, then he wouldn't be able to haunt his niece from the grave. You know what? I take back what I said earlier. Between these two characters, it's clear who's worse, Uncle Simon. With that, let's cap things off on a brighter note by showing some love to our two leads, both of whom delivered great performances here.
Everything you did for me, you did for greed. Greed!
First off, Cedric Hardwicke swings for the fences as Uncle Simon, and it absolutely works given the material. It's been noted that Hardwicke's acting strength was due in large part to his commanding voice and his aristocratic vibe, both of which I'd say Sir Cedric Hardwicke, as he was also known, puts to great use in this episode.
I really don't appreciate this morbid humor.
Hardwicke can also be seen in Hitchcock's Rope and the Ten Commandments.
It is pleasing to the gods to see a man honored by his enemies.
You're such a humorist, Uncle. You should have gone into burlesque.
And then we have the other half of our squabbling duo, Constance Ford. She does a solid job giving her character some nuance. And that's saying a lot because this character could have easily come off as one note. Ford was also a familiar face on TV with roles that spanned across shows such as Alfred Hitchcock Presents, Gunsmoke, and Rawhide, just to name a few. All in all, Uncle Simon is a bizarre mix of mean-spirited drama that also skews into some slightly goofy territory. But I liked it. Uncle Simon mostly works for me as a dark comedy. Rod Serling's dialogue is as sharp as ever, the performances are top-notch, I'm always happy seeing Robbie the Robot, and if you want to go a little deeper regarding the emotional psychology, there's room here for further discussion as well. I'm curious to hear what you all think of this one. As for me, I'd rate Uncle Simon 3 out of 5 hot chocolates. Thanks as always for watching, everyone. Don't forget, hit like and sub if you enjoyed this weird walk through the 5th dimension. Until next time, take care, be well, and remember, money can't buy happiness, but it can buy you a hot chocolate drinking robot that demands eternal loyalty.
I'd like a cup of hot chocolate. Be sure that it's hot. You hear me? Make sure it's hot. What does it take to make you move, you bovine crab?